Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in support of the fiscal year 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. As a member of the House Armed Services Committee, I've had the honor of working on this important legislation for months, and I'm proud of the final bipartisan bill we produced to strengthen our national security. One of the main reasons I came to Congress was to restore America's military strength and improve the quality of life for our servicemen and women. This bill takes several critical steps to help us achieve that goal. In total, this year's NDAA authorizes $886 billion in national defense discretionary programs, with a focus on improving our readiness and recruitment, supporting our service members and their families, strengthening partnerships with our allies, increasing the lethality of our joint force, equipping our warfighters to successfully complete their mission, and ensuring vigorous oversight of taxpayer dollars at the Pentagon. I wanted to speak specifically to a few components of the NDAA, why it's a great bill, why I am excited to support it and encourage my colleagues to do the same. First of all, the NDAA has a large component of it is about supporting our service members and their families. It secures the largest pay raise in 20 years for our service members at 5.2%. We continue to see our service members struggling with the economy. They're unable to afford things, not just gas and groceries, but things like buying a new home, buying a new car. We have service members that still qualify for things like SNAP benefits and WIC benefits. We still see food pantries that exist on our bases. So providing that important pay raise, again, the largest in over 20 years, very important component of taking care of our men and women. This NDAA also authorizes $356 million over the president's budget request to renovate and build new barracks. We had a GAO report come out recently that really highlighted some of our insufficiencies when it comes to housing, especially unaccompanied housing, the mold issues, the pest issues, just the out-of-date, the infrastructure that's old and dilapidated. We can do better for our servicemen and women. So this bill provides just that. It's a starting point. There's a lot to do, but I'm excited to support it for that reason. Also includes a Parents' Bill of Rights in DoD schools. I represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, so kind of the birthplace of the Parents' Rights Matter movement. So we were able to incorporate why it's important to have parents involved in their children's schools into this NDAA piece so that it applies to DoD schools as well. Authorizes DoD also to reduce out-of-pocket child care expenses for military families and provides $153 million over the president's budget request for the construction of new child care centers. You know, in my district, I have Naval Air Station Oceana. Our CDC on base has over 1,600 people on the waiting list. That's not acceptable, and my base is not alone. If you were to look at other bases, same amount of waiting lists. We can do better than this, and it's an important way to support our service members and their families. This bill also authorizes an additional berthing barge to provide a safe and healthy housing alternative for Navy service members during dry dock availabilities. We just had an article come out about the USS Stennis and Newport News, which is where the shipyard is, will be the first to have off-ship housing, free Wi-Fi, better parking. We have to take care of our servicemen and women who are in these extended port periods, and this bill does just that. This NDAA also provides oversight for taxpayer dollars. It cuts $37 billion in inefficient weapons systems, defense programs, and Pentagon bureaucracy. It requires mandatory DoD audits, and it also establishes a special inspector general to oversee and monitor security assistance going to Ukraine. I've been a supporter, and I think we need to continue to support that fight in Ukraine. However, it cannot be a blank check. There has to be some accountability, and this NDAA also improves readiness and recruitment. It's something I've been focused on. We have a recruitment, retention, quality of life task force that has been part of our Armed Services Committee. We've been focusing that for several months now. So this NDAA is a good place to start. It creates a grant program to expand the capacity of our shipyards. We see that we are behind in our shipbuilding capacity. We know that China is outpacing us. China is rapidly approaching the number 400 ships, while we are hovering just under 300. So important that we invest in that shipbuilding piece and additionally supporting our ship repair industry. This bill also increases the number of junior ROTC programs and instructors at U.S. high schools. That's such an important part of our recruiting for us, for our armed forces. I want people to be in our great Navy and Army and Air Force and to join our great military. It's a great way for people to have jobs and education benefits and health care. And there's no better place to advertise for our military than starting with our young people. So putting that investment in the JROTC programs is so important. And this NDAA does that. Also extends military recruitment and retention bonuses and special pay pay authorizations. We've got to stay competitive with civilian jobs that are out there. I know there's a lot of competition in workplaces, and this NDAA will help the military to stay competitive. Also rejects the Biden administration's efforts to reduce the size of our Navy by protecting 4 battle force ships with years of service life remaining. The president had asked to decommission 8 ships, and we reduced that number to 4. We really can't afford to decommission any ships, in my opinion, but we cut it to 4. We have to make sure that we are providing oversight, and that money, that investment that we're putting in ship repair, we need to watch that our ships are getting repaired and they're getting repaired on schedule, because we need every single one of them. This bill also establishes an enlisted training pilot program at community colleges, offering more educational opportunities for our enlisted servicemen and women. Prohibits DoD from contracting with any CCP or Chinese-owned or controlled company operating in the U.S., such an important piece of national security. This NDAA also strengthens partnerships with our allies. We need our friends now more than ever. This bill fully funds our Pacific Deterrence Initiative. It provides for the implementation of the AUKUS agreement with Australia, unlocking over $3 billion in Australian investments in the U.S. submarine industrial base. Authorizes over $987 million in Indo-PACOM commander priorities, which were left unfunded in the Biden budget. It strengthens training and advising for the military forces of Taiwan, and extends authority for the transfer of weapons systems, as well as precision-guided munitions to Israel. This NDAA also protects our own national security. We do have some border wins that we were able to get and secure in this NDAA. Fully funds the deployment of National Guardsmen in support of Border Patrol activities. Extends the Pacific Deterrence Initiative to enhance U.S. deterrence and defense posture in the Indo-Pacific region. Funds initiative at $14.7 billion, an increase of $5.6 billion over the budget request. It prohibits the DoD from reducing the number of intercontinental ballistic missiles below 400 or reducing the responsiveness or alert status of the arsenal. I'm also proud that my colleagues from both sides of the aisle supported my effort to include critical provisions from my Sailor Standards of Care Act in our nation's most important defense bill. These provisions will directly benefit service members and their families in Hampton Roads and throughout the country by improving our service members' quality of life, by increasing access to mental health care. As a nurse practitioner, focusing on mental health care, especially for our military members and especially for our veterans, has been something that I fight for every single day. So we had provisions of the Sailor Standards of Care Act get into the NDAA and into the conference version, which we will be voting on tomorrow. Some of those provisions are that it examines reimbursement rates for mental health care providers under TRICARE. When I meet with mental health care providers in my district and throughout the country, really, they have that same concern. They want to be reimbursed. There's not enough of them. We want them to be partners in care for our military members and our veterans, so we need to make sure we're providing that reimbursement and we're providing it in a timely manner. This bill also directs the Navy to look into constructing and managing a dashboard to track quality of life programs and their utilization rate. So we're looking at things like health care, child care, spouse employment, housing, that we're making sure we're providing the best services we can, again, for our military. This bill requires a report on the feasibility of expanding TRICARE for Life to include a benefit for the Silver Sneakers program, mimicking the existing benefit that's included under some of our Medicare Advantage programs. We had constituents that asked for this program. They want to utilize public gyms and recreations facilities, and so we'd like the TRICARE program to cover it for our older adults who would love nothing more than to go exercise. This bill also assesses the feasibility of providing additional mental health resources to limited duty sailors. You know, in Hampton Roads, we saw an increase in the suicide rates for sailors that we took out of the workplace, that we took out of the mission, and we kind of had them in a waiting area. So we are looking, in this bill, we are looking at, how long is that taking to medically process people out? Are we providing those mandatory mental health screenings? Are we taking care of them? Who's providing that care? This bill is going to look at expanding that care so that chaplains can do it, corpsmen can do it. There's a shortage of mental health care providers, so really holistically looking at how are we providing that mental health services to our servicemen and women and providing them with the best mental health services that we can. The harsh reality is that the world is a dangerous place. The United States and its allies are facing unprecedented and rapidly evolving threats across the globe. China is outpacing us in warship production. China has 350 ships and quickly moving to 400 ships, compared with our 293. Iranian proxies have attacked American bases and troops stationed overseas over 46 times since October 17th. Israel is countering the most horrific attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. North Korea launched its first military reconnaissance satellites into orbit last month with the help of Russia. Russian aggression continues in Ukraine, with Putin threatening to go after NATO member countries next. Now more than ever, we must prioritize and project American strength across the globe. This legislation goes a long way in achieving that goal. The goal of this legislation is deterrence. It's all about peace through strength. America leads the world in the peacekeeping forces, and it's so important. I can think of no other country that I would want to have this role than our great nation, the United States. In closing, Madam Speaker, the fiscal year 2024 National Defense Authorization Act ensures our military can remain the best in the world. It refocuses our nation's efforts on advancing military readiness and quality of life to make sure our men and women in uniform are ready to fight tonight. As a former Navy helicopter pilot, as a third-generation veteran, military spouse, and mother to children who serve, I will always be the loudest voice for our military men and women in Congress. I urge all of my colleagues to support this critical legislation. Passing this year's NDAA by a wide bipartisan margin would send an important signal to the men and women defending our freedom that those of us in Congress will rise above our differences to prioritize their needs and our national security above all else. Thank you, and I yield back.